The live stream will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. This webinar is part of a digital missionary live series organized by Trinity Adventist International Church in Bangkok, Thailand. It is sponsored by community7.org. We are live every Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Bangkok time. Visit bangkokadventist.com for more details. Please stand by and share this video. The live stream will start shortly.
Create in me a clean heart, oh God, and renew a right spirit within me. Create in me a clean heart, oh God, and renew a Spirit within me, and cast me not away from thy presence, O Lord. Take
Mic
not
test.
thy
1, 2,
Holy
3, mic
Spirit
test.
from me. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and renew a right spirit within me, and cast me not away from thy presence, O Lord. Take not thy Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and renew a right spirit within me, and renew a right spirit within me, and renew a right spirit within me.
Our weekly Digital Missionary live webinar is sponsored by Community7.org. C7 provides sustainable online platforms and management structures to generate technical and financial resources for the evangelistic work in Thailand. We invite you to learn more about Community7 at Community7.org. Again, thanks for joining us today. The live stream will begin shortly.
Father, I have knowledge, so will you show me now how to use it wisely and find a way somehow to make the world I live in a little better place, and make life with its problems a little bit easier to face. Grant me faith and courage and put purpose in my days, and show me how to serve Thee in effective ways, so my education, my knowledge, and my skill may find their true fulfillment as I learn to do Thy will. And may I ever be aware in everything I do that knowledge comes from learning and wisdom comes from You. Amen.
How to show them how to do.
Hello, very good evening to everyone that's joining us here this evening, here in Bangkok. It is now 8:08 p.m. here in Bangkok. And I thank you all for being here with us again tonight. Thank you for Pastor Rolly, who is there with us on Zoom. And we're still awaiting some of the other participants. And we as well welcome you that are there on Facebook and YouTube and on Twitch as well, looking and being part of this weekly live streaming. I thank you all for being here. And every week we are together here talking about ministry, about what it means to be a digital missionary, how we serve God in our capacities, whether we are employed as a missionary, whether we are working for the church, or we have our own business, our own activities, and we are missionaries at heart. We are living a digitally missionary experience, and we are experiencing that love of Christ and sharing the love of Christ with those around us. Every week we come together here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. and we talk about issues and things about life with the ministry regarding finances, family, and digital connectiveness online. For the past few weeks, we have been talking about finance, and we look at different areas of financial information, how we support our ministries, how we do our budgets, and how we can invest the money that we save so we can plan ahead into our ministry and our lives. So today we are shifting the topic a little bit more into our experience, and today's topic is about storytelling. How storytelling is used in your ministry, how is storytelling used in your business, how is storytelling used in your life, and what we can learn tonight together that will help us to improve and better our life, better our business, and better our missionary experience through the storytelling process. Now, tonight, we invite God to be with us as we speak and we share. And I ask each one of you there at home or where you are in your digital devices that you might take a few seconds of your life just now to just pray and ask God to come into our lives, to ask God to come and fill our spirit, fill our hearts, fill our minds, that we might be able to hear His word and continue to grow in experience and in truth, so we can continue to do and deliver the message of good news to those around us. With that, I thank you all for being here. Thank you all also for sharing this stream, for sharing with your friends on your social media accounts, for inviting others to also join us in the discussion, to be part on our Zoom discussion live here. If you want to ask questions, be part of the conversation, or to join us there on the different platforms in Facebook, on YouTube, or in Twitch, and you can be part of the conversation there. So you can invite your friends, you can invite those around us that are part of that digital experience of being a missionary. Try to share the word of good news with others and want to learn how to live that experience with our families, in our finances, and our work of spreading the gospel about Christ. Now, as I said before, today we're talking about storytelling. So let me start first by giving you a general view of what storytelling is about. Because really and truly, everything that we do, everything that we say is better said to stories. Through stories, we can communicate better where we are and we can connect with people. Now, the Bible, for example, is written through stories, and it shares that information through the stories and life of many individuals there in the Bible. And the Bible authors, through the inspiration of this Holy Spirit, they understood this process of storytelling. They were able to generate in us really that necessity of that feeling when we are reading the different stories, to understand the message, to understand what is trying to convey the story. In the same way, today, your stories, my stories, can be part of sharing that message with those around us. A few years ago, I saw a video by Casey Neistat. Now, Casey Neistat, a few years ago, in 2015, he decided to start his process of daily blogging. So every day he will film his life and tell a story through his life, tell show like a small mini movie of his daily interactions and his daily life. And he revolutionized what it was to be a digital blogger, to be able to be out there with the camera and start sharing his life. Now, blogging was not invented by him. That was something that was done way before, even before we had Facebook or YouTube. And those things were already part of the story, were already being done before Casey Neistat. But what the difference here that he brought into the mix was a cinematographic or story component to the daily life. So he was not sharing his whole life, but he was finding narratives, stories, messages, lessons from every life, from his life every day to share with the audience. And he will do that through the process of filming his life and then editing and being able to share that story through his experience. Now, I tried here to cut a part of him trying to explain to us what is that made him special, how he grew from a couple hundred followers to millions of followers in a very short time, and he really changed his career and his life around in just a few years by changing this dynamic of how you tell stories on a digital or on a daily basis through the digital means, showing your life. Let me see if this works and if we can hear part of his story. Let me try this. Okay, it seems that the video is not working. Okay. Yep. No, the video is not working here on my computer. It is really a challenge. No, it didn't load. Let me try another part of the video and see if I can get that one to work. Now, what Casey Neistat have done here is try to recreate or give us a brief synopsis of what his process of telling his story was about, how he went about his life to really shoot his movies or shoot his life in a way that it will be telling a story that's compelling to those around him. Let me try again and see if I can get this video to play. It's playing now, but it's not really what I want to show. It's only part of it. So I will forward here the part of the video that I want to show you, and I will try to restart it. Oh, let me see. So this is his daily life. I just want to show you a part of his interaction with us when he tells us about his story. This is the part I want to tell you about.
Almost daily vlog. Number one, the most important thing is, of course, the story. But what is a story?
1 second.
Here's a super basic breakdown of a story. And every good story follows this rule. That is the rule of a 3-act narrative. You've got a beginning, you've got a middle, you've got an end. Setup, conflict, resolution. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, Act 1. Jack fell down and broke his crown, Act 2. Jill came tumbling after, Act 3. Setup, conflict, resolution. Now, in some episodes, that's super literal. For example, my all-time favorite episode that I've ever made of this vlog, which is called My All-Time Greatest, is such a literal example of setup, conflict, resolution. It just felt so good to make that. There was a setup, here's what happened. There was a conflict, oh my God, what's the outcome gonna be? And then there was a resolution, happy ending. That's not always so literal in every episode, but I strive for that in every episode because that is what's at the core of a well-told story, and a story is what drives any video like this. And that right there was sort of the promise or the deal that I made with myself, was never an obligation to share with you the intimacies of every day of my life. This isn't a journal, but instead, could I find every day in my life a 3-act narrative to share? Now, a couple of the more granular aspects. I always found it kind of hard to watch non-stop shaky camera vlogs. It was just...
So I will not go into the details of what he's sharing there, but what I will try to do is to forward the video so we can listen a little bit more about the storytelling part of his story.
very important. No one gives a shit about your stupid time lapses, your stupid drone shots. That's something I have to remind myself on a daily basis. That kind of cinematography only works if it's serving a greater purpose. And for me, it serves two purposes. One is transitional. So you'll notice sometimes, like, I'm outside wrapping up a scene where I'm doing something on my skateboard. The next scene I'm in my studio doing something completely different. And in between there might be...
So here he's telling about the difference between his different types of cinematography that he uses and how that is important in his story. How he uses the different camera angles and different things to tell that story.
The audience a broader image of where you are and what's taking place in time. Drones in particular are great for that. I'm at a hotel on a cool beach and it doesn't really work pointing my camera. The drone can give you context that otherwise couldn't.
So he's talking about the difference between the different kinds of shots that he uses through the story to bring out the story that he's telling.
It feels out of place and it gets boring very, very fast. Now, there is a lot more depth and complexity to it than that. Things like, where does being positive all the time start to just sound like total BS where people don't believe it? Things like when I'm feeling down and I want to share with you the audience that I'm struggling with something, how do I do that in a way that you actually care? Because we've all got our own problems. Why should I give a shit about yours? Things like consistent narratives, and if I'm on a trip that's 5 days long, how do I make a 5-day episode arc about essentially the same subject? So there's a lot of depth to this, but I hope that this serves as a good sort of introduction into some of the thinking that I've had as I do this vlog. I want to end this first kind of instructional sharing video by saying this. Probably the most important thing to succeeding, whether it's in the vlog game, the YouTube game, or in the creative space at all, is this. You have to have your own thing. So if you follow this video perfectly and you make the most perfect Casey vlogs, you will have failed before you've begun. They don't want to see your Casey vlogs. They want to see your vlogs. They want to see what you can bring to the table. My favorite thing in the world is seeing how YouTubers are able to iterate and build on other YouTubers' styles and sentiments and ideas until they make something that's uniquely theirs. Those are the YouTubers that really succeed. So the most important rule is be original. And that whole recipe that I just outlined, that was what I thought I could uniquely bring to YouTube and help find success with it. All right.
Okay, so pretty much what he tried to tell us is, look, throughout when we communicate with people, in his case is individually and specifically to YouTube videos, but this transcends the YouTube videos idea to every way that we communicate. I remember this when I was doing my homiletics class. My first homiletics class, I had a great teacher, and he really went through and break down the different types of oratory, different types of homiletics, and being able to organize the sermons or the messages in a way that you will captivate the audience. I remember when I was younger than that, the first time I went to Maryland to the GC building on a Sabbath afternoon, Sabbath morning. I went there and I met Pastor Jose Rojas. He was later the division youth director, I believe. And his sermon, his style of preaching, of connecting with the audience, drew me to how he was able to develop the story between the sermon, the story between the message, and be able to convey a sense of feelings and emotions through his words. And I followed him for a few months, for a few years maybe after that. There was no YouTube, there was no internet. We just tried to figure out where he was preaching, where different areas he was preaching, and they would try to go there whenever we have a video out of him. We'll try to watch it and try to see how he developed that narrative. And I remember he saying, in my narrative story, I try to touch everybody that's in the audience. I try to touch their lives as well as touch the different senses. I try to give them a story that will touch the sense of smell. So I talk about how something smells, or how something feels, and how something, what is noise that something made, or how something I saw. So people can really start to integrate the feelings into the story. And more than that, then I met another pastor that he wrote a book about communication, Jansen. now he's a doctor. Just I think he is now still teaching at Andrews, and he was talking about developing the story when you communicate and how you go through the development of your story, so to keep people connected, to keep people's attention, and to drive them into a point and into a climax of your story, into the message. And we follow the kind of stories that Jesus told, how he told the story of the prodigal son, how he told the story of the story of the Good Samaritan, and what was the literal compositions of the story, and how those convey different feelings throughout the story, and they were meant to really approach and really convey a message through the story. So how we tell stories have a big impact on the way that we communicate, even throughout when we share our experiences, because we have said here this a number of times, that through our experience, through our testimony, is where we can get more information out to people, where we can share the love of God more powerfully than any other way. When we share our story, and we can get people to connect with it. I found another video that I want to share with you. The edit version that I made to share with you here, only the clip that I wanted to show you is not working on my computer right now. So I'm trying to load the complete video and will forward it to the point where what I want to share with you. This is a TED Talk, and I wanted to share with you a specific part of this story when he talks about the different parts of the story. So let me share this with you.
Nice cocktail. I would like to start with radically increasing your dopamine levels.
Let me open it.
And I need your consent.
The mic for those that are with us in Zoom.
Cool. And if you don't like the idea of that, you'll just have to cover your ears.
Here he will share
dopamine,
a story that will try to bring
when you
dopamine
have that in your blood,
in the listeners.
these are the beautiful effects. You get more focus, more motivation, and you remember things in a better way. So what does dopamine feel like? It feels like this. About 6 years ago, I received a phone call from a woman who represented one of the biggest training companies in Scandinavia, and she said, "Hey David, we've got a lot of trainers in presentation skills and in rhetorics, and we would like to increase the level of all of these. And we think you are a perfect pick. Would you like to come to a meeting?" I'm like, wow, I'm honored. I'd love to. And I come up to Stockholm, and I'm going to their office. And just as I am going to pull the handle down, what I don't know then is that I'm walking into one of the absolute worst meetings I am ever going to have in my life. But I don't know that yet, so it's okay. I open the door, and I meet this woman. Her name is Lena. And hurriedly she says, "David, just so you know, I'm not the one you're going to have this meeting with. You're going to have it with 3 gentlemen further on here." And I'm like, okay, that's a bit strange. Usually you know who you're going to have the meeting with. And then she progresses with a bit of chit-chatting, and then suddenly she says, are you ready now? And I'm like, yeah, what should I be ready for? And then she says, "Just so you know, can you see the room over there?" And I go like, "Yes, I can see it." "Well, in that room you have the 3 gentlemen. Just so you know, they're all majority owners of this company. They've all got an ex-military background, and none of them wants the training that you are going to pitch." I'm like, come on, why am I here? And it's like, well, all the trainers want this, but the management they're on too high horses. They can't see that they need it. So it's pretty simple. The only thing you have to do is go in there and kind of, you know, just prove the opposite. I'm like, yeah, that sounds simple, doesn't it? And I can remember myself. I'm walking towards this office. My sweat is coming down my palms. My heart is racing. And just halfway there, she calls my name. And I still, to this day, don't know if this woman is sadomasochistic or just downright unintelligent. Because she calls my name and she goes like, "David," and it's like I'm going to get a tip, you know, something like that. So I turn around to ask her, go like, and she says the following. Now, if I don't tell you what she says there, is that annoying? Well, actually, as an example, I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to prove to you what it feels with high dopamine levels. Would you say that your focus was increased? Your attention was increased? You were creative. You created situations around this, and you probably already figured out what that room looked like, correct? And you remember that I did that to you for quite a while. Now, the feeling you had there was high levels of dopamine, which is beautiful. So how do you do that? Well, what you do is you build suspense, you launch a cliffhanger, and the most beautiful thing of all is that all storytelling is, per definition, dopamine creating, because it's always something that we're waiting and expecting. So just imagine, just by using storytelling, you can get those techniques. You don't have to do a cliffhanger like I did. So that was the first hormone. I'd now like to go to oxytocin. Is that okay as well? I'll induce that. All right. The beautiful effects of oxytocin are the following. You become more generous, you trust me more, and you bond to me. Do you want to do that? All right. All right, so this was 9 months have passed, and it was a planned cesarean. And the little brother, who was 5 years of age at that point of time, he was kind of really looking forward to what's going to happen. He was going to become a big brother. And he'd helped us pick out the wallpaper, he'd helped choose the bed linen. He'd even saved his own pocket money to buy a little stuffed animal, which was placed on the pillowcase. And about 2 days before the planned cesarean, something happened. Something wasn't right. The parents something was off. And the day before, there was simply no movement in the stomach. There was no heartbeat. You couldn't feel or hear anything at all. So the parents were rushed into hospital, lay down on a bed, and the doctor comes in, checks the stomach, looks at me, and sees what I see, and that is that the heart is no longer beating for this child. This was me 9 years ago. It was the worst thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I don't know, can you just imagine what you have to tell, how you tell that to a 5-year-old? Can you just imagine that? Because he's home there waiting, anticipation for this coming event. But it won't happen. So part of me, and to handle that, I talk about it. And I've talked to you about it now. And now, you got higher levels of oxytocin in your blood, whether you want it or not, which means that you feel more human. You're bonding to me, and you feel more relaxed. So how do you do that? In storytelling, you create empathy. So whatever character you build, you create empathy for that character. And oxytocin is the most beautiful hormone of all, because you feel human. Now, the third and last hormone is endorphins, and I would like to show you a woman which we can say has overdosed on endorphins. Let's just look what that looks like. Oh, we'll go here.
To inspire and to respond. Are you speaking or listening?
I'm sorry. Just begin to listen.
To inspire and to respond.
To inspire and to respond.
And in all circumstances.
And in all circumstances.
Of our life together.
I'm sorry, of our life together. Of our life together.
To be loyal to you.
To be loyal to you.
With my whole life.
With my whole life.
And with all my being.
And with all my being.
Until death parts us.
Until death parts us.
Oh, the timing of that is so lousy, isn't it? So how do you create endorphins? Well, you make people laugh. What happens then is that they become more creative, they become more relaxed, and again, they become more focused, which is beautiful to have. Now, all these 3 hormones that I've induced into your brain now is what I call the angel's cocktail. But there is an opposite of that cocktail, and I call that the devil's cocktail. And the devil's cocktail has high levels of cortisol and adrenaline. And they feel like this. Ah! Sorry to do that to you. So high levels of cortisol and adrenaline. And the problem with that is that if you got really high concentrations, which I didn't give you there, but when you got high concentrations, look at this. Is this something that you want to have the people you talk to have in their blood, in their system? No. Now, in our stressful work lives, in our stressful lives, many times, when you present, when you communicate, when you deliver meetings, which one do you think they've drank most of? The devil's cocktail or the angel's cocktail?
Here we have seen an idea of how the storytelling can really impact on our listeners, of how they feel and how they relate to us, and those influencers in the adrenaline or the different stimulus that we give to the story do play a big part in how our listeners react. Now, this is not something that only applies when you are having a sermon or telling a story, because interestingly enough, when we talk, oftentimes we talk and communicate better even through stories. When we are sharing our story, our experience, or sometimes even the experience of those around us, things that we have heard. For the past few months, I have been doing coaching and consultancy online. I work with business people, with entrepreneurs that are starting their businesses online, or they are growing their businesses, and try to help them to really put a project in mind, a time in place, and a structure into developing their business and their income, growing their income in a way that they can feel and see the order and the production of things. And many times when I relate to them and try to see how the best ways to motivate them and to move them into the direction that they want to achieve, the direction they want to go, and achieving their goals, or even understanding their goals, oftentimes is best done through stories, through sharing part of my story, or through sharing a story that I have come in contact with, that I have heard, or that have impacted me in some way. And sharing that story helps them to really understand better their perspective. A few months ago, I was requested to do a few classes for families, for couples that are going through recovery, through a process of trying to save their marriage. And interestingly enough, some of the way that we can encourage those couples, that can encourage individuals that are going through difficulties and hardships, is not by telling them what to do. It's not by giving them the solution of the problems, but rather by sharing your own difficulties, by sharing what you have learned, what you have seen. And the way how you tell that story is really important, because the way that you tell the story, what you say in the story, changes how the person feels. Especially when you're doing coaching, or when you are want to get a specific goal that you want the person to understand, then even the words that you mention through your story have a big impact. And at the beginning, it's something difficult. We pray and we ask that the Holy Spirit might give us the guidance and the understanding to share it correctly, to share it in the way that comes from our heart and can touch their heart and can really impact their lives. But more than the Holy Spirit, what we can also do is prepare ourselves. I have found that writing the stories, writing how I'm going to communicate different parts, or how my life have impacted me, have also helped me a lot to have those stories in my head and know clearly what type of stories I will bring out in different conversations. And that happens in any conversation. That happens in the spring of the moment when you are talking to someone and all of a sudden a topic comes up where you are able to share a little bit of your story, a little bit of your message. And that can happen in a conversation between friends, when you're telling jokes, when you're talking about the news, talking about the weather. Something can come up that you can see a moment to share your experience, to be a testimony for others. And if at that moment you already have a kind of a story already told in your head, that you have already written out into words, then that comes out easily. And especially if you do it here on the video or in a chat form, or if you are writing a blog or any other form online, it's important for us to have those ideas, those stories well into thought before we share them. So we can write them out, we can do brainstorming and kind of have an idea of what are the stories in my life that convey a message that I share with others to influence change. And that's another part. I said the word influence change because really and truly, through telling these stories, we can be influencing people. And the important part here is to influence them with our experience and not manipulate them with our experience. These are two completely different things. It's like saying we are a salesperson that wants to sell this product regardless of how good it is for you, of how important it is to you, or even it will be good for you. A salesperson have always been identified as a snake or a person that's trying to get you to do something that you don't want. And that's how salespeople get so much a bad reputation. But there are those that are sales individuals that are able to understand that their job is not to push their agenda on people, but rather to help individuals. And that's what a Christian salesman is. That's what you and I are here, because we are selling our experience with Jesus Christ. We are experiencing selling our relationship with Jesus Christ. We are experiencing a change in our lives, and we want to transfer that to those that are listening to us. Whether it is through a 30 seconds TikTok, or whether it is through a 1 minute Instagram story, whether it is through a live session, whether it is through a 1 minute or 10 minutes video on YouTube, whether it is through a blog or to 140 characters on Twitter. We are trying to influence. We are trying to share a part of my story that will benefit those that are reading it, those that are coming in contact with it. And here is the beauty of it, that when we are trying to influence, to share that message, and we can put in a storytelling process into making those stories, they can become much more influential. They become more effective in their work, because we are able to have an organized thought. We can able to bring them from step 1, step 2, step 3 through an idea that they can follow. And I cannot just extend into my story and lose the message of what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I tell stories and it goes so long that you think, wait a minute, what is that I'm trying to say? Oh, where was I? And we lose track of what we are saying, when it's really and truly that we have a specific message that we want to convey, and message of influence for change to those around us. So in all, or in summation, I might say, what tonight I want to share with you is the importance for us to be in our conversations, to have a storytelling approach to our dialogues, to our interactions with people, whether it is in normal life, or whether it is in our online communication, or whether it is through the pulpit or through in public speaking, that we might be able to really relate to people and relate to them our story, that we put our parts into little comprised information pockets that we can really share with them and bring into them those feelings that they can maybe empathize with us, that they can maybe feel the attention to see what they want to really know, what's something important in our lives, or to find that there is happiness, there is hope in what we are sharing, that there is something that really can enlighten their lives, that can brighten their experience, that we might be able to be beacons of light for those around us, that our story might be able to tell them that there's something important for us to look after, that we might not resound to that devil cocktails, as Joseph was referring earlier, that we might not go into panic or fear as one of the driving forces to manipulate people, because that's what the government does, that's what the media does, that's what the presidents of the countries do. They try to manipulate people through fear. And the message of God, the message of salvation, is not a message of fear. It's a message of love. A message that we try to convey that there is something important coming. the arc of the story of Jesus from creation to the pyramid, the top of the story when Jesus is crucified and he dies for our sins, through the overarching arc coming down to his resurrection and his ascension to heaven to prepare a place for us. And then the cliffhanger, the ending, the storytelling aspect that soon we might see him, we'll see him coming back. There's a story to be told. And in your life, you also have stories that you can share. And it depends how you put them together, what words you use, how you share them, you can bring out the best on people. So I encourage you to look at your stories, to look at your life, to look at your conversations and your interactions with people, and see how you can bring out those stories. How can you use storytelling in your ministry to connect with people, to share your hope, to share your dreams, to share that message of salvation, to match that happiness, that joy that comes from knowing Jesus? How can you use it in your business? That by telling stories of those products that you are selling, that telling stories of those services that you are selling, that people might know that there is a reason behind what you are doing, that there is a whole story behind what you're providing to them. I'm not just pushing my products to you. I'm not just pushing that I am a coaching online, that I can build your business. I'm not just pushing that you have to pay me to do this. No, I'm not pushing that narrative. I'm pushing that idea of connectedness, that idea that we can work together, that there is a benefit for you and there's a benefit for me. And the reason why I am doing this is because I have seen the life of people improve through my product. I have seen the life of people change through my service, through whatever is that you do, however you earn your daily life, whether it is by teaching, by preaching, or by doing or making things or selling things or providing different services. We have a story behind it. There is a reason behind it. Our jobs, our ways of life are not the reason why we are here. The reason why we are here is to tell our experience of Jesus Christ, to say how is that what we do is encompassed, it is involved in our story, in our overall story. I thank you, all of you, for being here, and I would like to listen and hear from you. If you are there online right now and you would like to have a question, is there anything that you would like to ask? You want to be part of this story? If you are on Zoom, if you are on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitch, go there to your comment side, to the chat box there on the side if you're on YouTube, on the bottom if you're on Facebook, and just type in your question. Just tell me what are you thinking about. What challenges are you seeing with this idea of using stories to really convey a message of salvation? And while you type, I want to share with you that it is important for us to see this as part of our influence, part of our ministry, part of our business, because this has such a powerful impact on where we are. It's not part of manipulation. We have to be very careful how we use this power. I remember that movie that says, with great power comes great responsibility. When we learn these techniques, we have to be careful that we don't use this as manipulative tools, that I don't use these sad stories or these motivational stories or these jokes to just bring out a manipulating agent, to try to bring you to feel something that will make you more susceptible to what I'm trying to get you to do. And that is one of the warnings that we get, for example, with music, that we might use music in our ministry or in our lives carefully, because it drives into our mind and into our brain some feelings that are brought out and that put us in a preparation stage to do something, or to listen to a message, or to predispose us to some activities. And that's why we have to be very careful with music in our ministry and in our daily life. Okay, I don't see anybody raising their hands here on Zoom or on our platforms, on Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube. But I thank you all for being here. I thank you for being part of this process on this series on living a digitally connected life and living a ministry where we can share with others what we're doing. And while we finish, I would like to share with you my contact information. You can keep in contact with us what we're doing at community7.org. This program is sponsored by Community 7, project that is really involving into how we can use our finances in the best way possible to advance the work of the church, that we can put our savings, our investments into work where we can see some returns for ourselves as well as help in the ministry. Or we also, through that process, we also offer different online platforms, different online services where you in your ministry can benefit from. So I encourage you to visit community7.org or our website at C7M, that's C number 7M.org, and know more about the digital services and our digital missionary products there. Or you can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and by email, or on WhatsApp. There in the top part, you can scan that code and you can be in contact with me on WhatsApp. And we can continue the conversation. But again, I want to invite you for next week. Next week and every Tuesday, we are live at 8 p.m. Bangkok time. As the holidays are approaching, I know that we might take a break on the week of the 24th and the week of the 30th. But next week, I'll see you here on Zoom, on Facebook, and on YouTube. I hope that you are blessed, and from my family or from my heart to yours, I want to thank you for being here. May God bless you, may God empower you, and that your story might be a powerful agent of change online and in your everyday ministry. Thank you for being here again. God bless you and have a wonderful